The wind screamed through the gorge, a raw, terrifying sound that felt like the world itself was tearing apart. Beneath massive, thundering paws, the very ground trembled, sending waves of shock through Simba's small body. Dust and stone rained down from the cliffs, a relentless storm of debris that stung his eyes and clogged his throat. He skidded to a halt, claws digging into the shifting earth, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He had to find his father. Just moments ago, it was supposed to be a lesson, a hunt, but everything had spiraled into chaos. The buffalo, once a single, powerful herd, had scattered like dry leaves in a hurricane. Then the rocks started to fall, the earth itself seeming to rebel against them. Now, the once familiar expanse of the Pride Lands felt like a trap, its rocky walls closing in, suffocating him. "Father!" Simba shouted, his voice a desperate, thin thread nearly swallowed by the monstrous roar of the wind. He scanned the chaos, his eyes darting everywhere, searching for that familiar golden mane, that reassuring presence. And then he saw him from high above. A powerful silhouette against the dusty sky, Mufasa leaped. He landed on a narrow ledge below, his movements fluid and precise even amidst the pandemonium. His muscles were tense, coiled like a spring, and his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. He was a king, even when the world was falling down around him. "Stay close to me," Mufasa commanded. His voice was a low rumble, a bedrock of calm in the swirling storm of danger. It cut through Simba's panic, a lifeline in the noise. Another violent tremor shook the gorge, a deep, guttural groan from the earth. A new crack split the ground just ahead of them, a dark, hungry mouth opening in the stone. The way back was gone. The only way out was forward, deeper into the heart of the storm. Simba hesitated, his paws feeling rooted to the spot. Fear, cold and sharp, clawed at his insides, telling him to flee, to hide, to do anything but move forward. But then he looked at Mufasa. His father stood unwavering, a mountain of courage against the crumbling landscape. That single, steady look was all Simba needed. It was a silent promise of protection, a transfer of strength. Together, they ran. They moved as one, a dance of survival through a deadly maze. Rocks, some as large as he was, crashed down around them, shattering on the gorge floor with explosive force. Simba's world narrowed to the space just ahead, to the blur of his father's powerful legs guiding the way. He focused on dodging, on keeping up, on breathing. As they navigated the treacherous path, shadows shifted along the cliff tops. Unseen eyes watched them, glinting with malice. Hyenas, their scent, a foul mix of hunger and decay, drifted down on the wind. They were vultures of the land, waiting for weakness, for a misstep, for the perfect moment to strike. Mufasa sensed them instantly. A low, rumbling snarl vibrated in his chest, a warning that echoed off the rock walls. Without breaking stride, he shifted his body, placing himself squarely between Simba and the unseen threat above. He became a living shield, his presence a clear declaration that any who wished to harm his son would have to go through him first. "Fear makes prey," Mufasa said, his voice deep and resonant, a lesson delivered in the crucible of crisis. "We do not run from it, we move through it." The words weren't just spoken. They were branded into Simba's mind, seared there by the heat of the moment. It was a lesson far more profound than any hunting technique. It was about the heart of a king. 2. The gorge narrowed further. The towering cliffs pressing in on them, forcing them onto a deadly, constricted path. There was no room for error. Survival here depended on more than just speed or strength. It depended on trust. Complete, blind trust. Simba had to trust his father's every move, every command, every instinct. They rounded a sharp bend, and the path ahead was blocked. A huge chasm, wider than any Simba had ever seen, had been torn open by the quake. On the other side, the path continued, leading towards a sliver of light that promised safety. But the gap was impossible. Mufasa didn't slow. "Simba, when I jump, you jump with me. Do not hesitate." Simba's breath caught in his throat. He looked at the chasm, then at his father. Mufasa's gaze was fixed on the other side, already calculating, already committed. There was no doubt in his eyes, only resolve. In that moment, Simba understood. Moving through fear wasn't about not being afraid. It was about acting despite it. Mufasa gathered his powerful hind legs, his body tensing for the leap. "Now, son?" They launched into the air. For a heart-stopping second, they were suspended over the abyss, the wind whipping at them, the chasm yawning below. Simba kept his eyes locked on his father, his small body mirroring the larger one. They were a unit, a single will soaring through the air. They landed hard on the other side, stumbling but safe. They didn't stop. They kept running, leaving the hyenas and the chasm behind. The ground began to stabilize, the rain of rocks slowing to a trickle. 2. The roar of the wind softened into a mournful whisper. Finally, they burst out of the gorge and into the open savanna. The sunlight, warm and golden, washed over them, a stark contrast to the dark chaos they had just escaped. Simba collapsed onto the grass, his legs trembling, his lungs burning. His lungs burning. He was exhausted, but he was alive. Mufasa stood over him, his breathing heavy but controlled. He nudged Simba gently with his head, a gesture of comfort and pride. "You were brave today, my son." Simba looked up at his father, the hero who had stared down the collapsing world and carried him through it. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound sense of awe and a fierce, burning love. He had faced the storm and survived. He'd learnt that true strength wasn't about the absence of fear, but about facing it head-on, with courage and with trust. And as he lay there, safe under his father's watchful eye, Simba knew this was a lesson he would carry with him for the rest of his life. The gorge had tested him, but it had also forged him. Thank you for watching this story unfold. If you enjoyed this journey into the Pride Lands, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. We'll see you again soon. Rain, sharp and cold as spears, lashed down from the darkened sky. The ground beneath their paws transformed into a treacherous slick of mud and stone, turning each movement into a calculated risk. Simba, young and less sure-footed, suddenly slipped. His small claws scraped uselessly against the wet stone. A desponous, frantic sound lost in the growing tempest. For a heart-stopping moment, he was sliding, his world tilting into chaos. In a blur of motion, Mufasa spun back. His reaction was instantaneous, a reflex born of pure instinct and love. He gripped Simba firmly by the scruff of his neck, the hold both powerful and gentle, and hauled him back onto the narrow ledge. Their eyes met. Simba's were wide, filled with the raw, untamed terror of a near-fertile fall. Mufasa's, in stark contrast, burned with a fierce, unwavering resolve. Only a deep, solid strength that seemed to push back against the storm itself. "Breathe." Mufasa's voice was a low rumble, a sound that cut through the wind's shriek. "Strength begins here." A silent command to find a center. Simba, his small body trembling, forced himself to focus. He matched his father's breathing, inhaling slowly, exhaling steadily, creating a small pocket of calm amidst the chaos. As he did, a deafening crack of thunder echoed overhead, shaking the very rocks they stood on. But the storm wasn't their only enemy. The hyenas, their sinister, cackling laughter echoed through the gorge, a sound of pure malice that seemed to mock their struggle. They advanced slowly, confidently, their eyes gleaming in the gloom. Mufasa didn't hesitate. He let out a roar, not just a sound, but a physical force, too. It was a thunderous, earth-shaking blast of power that ripped through the air, forcing the hyenas to recoil, their mocking laughter momentarily silenced by primal fear. Yet, even as the hyenas faltered, a greater, more indiscriminate enemy revealed itself. The land itself, saturated and unstable, was turning against them. It devoured everything in its path, a brown, roaring torrent of destruction. There was no time to think, only to act. Simba scrambled upward, his muscles screaming in protest. Every inch was a battle, his claws digging into cracks, his legs burning with the effort. Mufasa followed close behind, his larger body moving slower, but with a relentless, driving purpose. He was a shield, a rear guard against the encroaching disaster. The flood crashed into the path they had just abandoned, swallowing it whole with a deafening roar. The canyon floor was gone, replaced by a raging river of debris. For a fleeting moment, a surreal silence fell as they reached a small, precarious ledge. They had made it. But the silence was a lie. The embodiment of strength was left dangling over the abyss. Time seemed to freeze. All the fear Simba had felt before was nothing compared to this. It was a cold, paralyzing dread that threatened to rout him to the spot. But then, something else surged through him. Something stronger than the fear was the echo of his father's words. Strength begins here. Without a second thought, without a conscious decision, Simba lunged forward. He dug his own claws into the solid rock, anchoring himself, and grabbed his father's foreleg. He strained every muscle in his small body, screaming, pulling with a strength he never knew he possessed. The weight was immense, a seemingly impossible task. But he refused to let go. He pulled and pulled, gritting his teeth, his world narrowing to this single, desperate act. Mufasa, finding a sliver of purchase, managed to help, and together, inch by agonizing inch, they fought their way back from the edge. They collapsed onto the solid ground of the ledge, a heap of soaked fur and trembling limbs. They lay there for a long time, the rain still pouring down, their breaths coming in ragged, shuddering gasps. They were alive, battered, exhausted, but alive. Mufasa slowly lifted his head and looked at Simba. The fear was gone from his eyes, replaced by a look of profound, overwhelming pride. "You saved us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He looked at his own paws, small and trembling, and then at his father. He realized that survival was just about the brute strength of a roar or the power to climb. It was about something deeper, twos. It was about finding courage when fear was screaming its loudest. It was about refusing to surrender, not just for yourself, but for those you love. Strength wasn't just in the muscles, it was in the heart. And that day, in the roaring canyon, Simba discovered his was stronger than he could ever have imagined. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Net fell heavy and cold. They found shelter beneath a jagged overhang, the storm raging beyond. Simba curled close to Mufasa, exhaustion finally catching him. "I was scared," Simba admitted softly. "I thought I'd lose you." Mufasa lowered his head, resting it against Simba's. "A king is not fearless," he said. "He feels fear and acts anyway." Thu. The words settled deep within Simba as distant howls echoed through the darkness. Dawn came slowly, revealing a landscape change-scarred, broken, but still alive. As they emerged, the hyenas appeared once more, blocking the only path home. Simba tensed, but Mufasa did not retreat. He stepped forward, mane lifted by the morning wind, eyes blazing. "This land does not belong to fear," Mufasa growled. Simba stood beside him, heart racing, but steady. When the hyenas charged, father and son fought as one, Mufasa with power and precision, Simba with speed and determination. The attackers faltered, then fled, their laughter silenced. Breathing hard, Simba looked up at Mufasa, understanding something new, too. This battle wasn't just about surviving the storm, it was about becoming stronger through it. Ooh. Ever felt like the world was watching you, waiting to see if you'd stand up or fall? That's a feeling every hero, every legend, and every one of us has to face at some point. It's the moment that defines you. Today, we're rediving deep into one of the most powerful moments in cinematic history, a moment that often gets overshadowed by the big musical numbers and the dramatic betrayals, but is arguably the very core of a hero's journey. It's the long walk home. Imagine this. The danger has passed, but the adrenaline is still singing in your veins. The world around you feels different, changed, because you are different. This is precisely where we find a young Simba walking beside his father, Mufasa, as the sun climbs higher in the sky. The ordeal is over, the hyenas are gone, but the real lesson is just beginning to sink in. The land itself, the vast and endless savanna, seems to hold its breath, acknowledging the profound shift that has just occurred. It's not just a walk back to the safety of Pride Rock, it's a pilgrimage, a journey from boyhood to something more. Simba walks taller now. Can you picture it? His small paws pressing into the earth with a new kind of confidence. Each step is more certain than the one before. This isn't the same cub who naively stumbled into the elephant graveyard just a short while ago. This is a survivor. He has faced his fear, stared into the face of real danger, and come out the other side. That experience, that fire, has forged something new within him. He's not just playing at being king anymore. He's starting to understand the weight of the crown he will one day wear. Mufasa, the wise and powerful king, walks beside him. Fato doesn't need to say much. A father knows. He glances at his son, and in his eyes, there's not just relief, but a deep, quiet pride. A gentle smile plays on his lips. It's the smile of a teacher who has just seen his student grasp the most difficult lesson of all. He leans down, his voice calm and steady, a powerful rumble that seems to resonate with the very earth they walk on. Today, he says, you learned what it means to endure. What a powerful word, endure. It's not about winning. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about surviving. It's about holding on when every instinct tells you to let go. It's about facing the fire and not letting it consume you. Mufasa isn't just talking about the physical fight with the hyenas. He's talking about the mental battle, the fight against fear, against panic, against the urge to give up. He was teaching Simba that true strength, the strength of a king, lies in resilience. It's the ability to get knocked down and get back up, again and again, with your spirit intact. Simba doesn't reply with a witty comeback or a boastful claim. He just nods. His gaze is fixed on the horizon toward the distant, majestic silhouette of Pride Rock. In that simple nod, a universe of understanding passes between father and son. Simba gets it. He understands that this day will be etched into his memory forever. It will become a part of who he is. The chilling fear that seized him, the heat of the fire, the desperate, primal fight to live, these are not just traumatic memories to be forgotten. They are the building blocks of his character. This is the crucible moment. The point in the hero's journey where the protagonist is tested by fire and emerges transformed. Think about other great stories. Luke Skywalker facing Vader for the first time and losing a hand. Harry Potter surviving Voldemort's attack as a baby. Frodo taking on the burden of the ring. These moments of survival, of endurance, are what set them on their path to greatness. It's not the victory that defines them, but the struggle. The struggle is the story. For Simba, this is that moment. It's the day a legend refused to fall. He could have been just another tragic story, a prince who made a fatal mistake. But he endured, he survived. And in that survival, a future king truly began to rise. Before this, being king was a game, a song, a dream of being in charge and doing whatever he wanted. Now, he's had his first real taste of the responsibility that comes with power, the responsibility to protect, to be brave, not for glory, but for survival. This scene is a masterclass in storytelling because it shows us, it doesn't just tell us. We see the change in Simba's posture. We feel the weight of Mufasa's words. We understand the significance of this quiet, reflective journey home. It's a powerful reminder that our greatest growth often comes directly after our greatest challenges. The moments that test us, the days we feel we might break, are often the very moments that make us be. They forge our resilience, deepen our wisdom, and prepare us for the path ahead. The walk back to Pride Rock is more than just a physical journey. It's a symbolic passage. Simba is leaving the reckless innocence of his childhood behind in the dust of the graveyard. He is walking toward his future, toward his destiny, with a newfound understanding of what it will require of him. He is no longer just Mufasa's son. He is an heir who has begun to comprehend the legacy he must carry. Isn't that a journey we all take in our own lives? We all have our elephant graveyards, our moments of fear and failure. We all have those long walks home after a battle, whether it's a failed project, a difficult conversation, or a personal loss. And in those quiet moments of reflection, as we put one foot in front of the other, we begin to process what happened. We learn what it means to endure. We find a new strength we didn't know we had. We walk a little taller, our steps a little surer, because we've faced the fire and we are still here. That is the hidden genius of this scene. It connects the epic story of a Lion King to our own human experience. It tells us that the path to becoming who we are meant to be is paved with challenges. It's a beautiful, quiet, and profound moment that teaches a timeless lesson. Legends aren't born, they are forged in the fires of adversity. And the rise to greatness often begins with the simple, determined act of walking home. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the stories that shape us. See you in the next video.